But if they think they're up against some robot who's going to dictate, it can get very fraught and end up with you not being asked to accompany again.
Oh, I see.
So I've definitely seen and experienced both sides of that. Also, accompanists are sometimes required to take the lead and guide, depending on who it is you're accompanying. But I've had people walk through the door, they just say, I want to play this, show me what to do.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So first we'll read it through, then I'll piece it together and I'll say, this is how I think, this is my conception of it.
Yeah.
Do you agree with this? And you can put together a work of art with another person that can really work, and unknown to the audience, the accompanist has put it together.
Yeah.
So it can work either way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you find you have to divide your attention between what you're doing and what the other performer is doing?
Yes.
And how difficult is that?
Now, it does depend on the score. So if you've had a very difficult score, if you're reading, I mean, I'm already reading 2 lines and sometimes very fast. Sometimes I've got another very complex line or 2 that I'm reading simultaneously. Now, sometimes I'll just say to the other player, I'm absolutely enveloped by my own part here. You're going to have to look after yourself. Which is a bit of a no-no as an accompanist, but they always understand if I say that, because people are renowned for bringing me difficult stuff, actually. You know, that nobody else can play, so they say, you know, I can understand why you brought this to me. If you can just look after your timing between B and C, and I'll look after mine, and we'll meet at C later on.
Yes.
So it's not all as predictable as you would hope or think.
Right.
So sometimes there are lots of tricks in the accompanist's sleeve. For instance, if something is a little bit too unreachable or inaccessible for both players, often the accompanist, such as myself, would improvise or change the score or simplify the score, even edit the score, rearrange the score on the spot, often.
Right.
Wow. Yes, I know we don't all confess to that, but I regard that as part of the job.
Yeah.
So say if you've got a performance and it's in 2 days and you're confronted with somebody who, say, can't manage a certain section, there are creative ways around it. There's things to do with twisting the tempo, to do with changing what's happening in the piano, for instance, so that it sounds, so that it overpowers the player by prior arrangement.
Right.
Or vice versa. So there's various little tricks, and I think that's what I quite like about it. It's that the art of accompanying is not what it seems. It isn't
Clearly
just
not.
somebody sitting down and playing what's on a page. Not at all.
That is illuminating, to say the least. I had no idea that's what you're up to.
Oh, you didn't know, Angelina.
No, I didn't know. So now we do. That's very interesting, isn't it? Do you ever have to do that with singers as well? Do you come to a kind of agreement beforehand?
With operatic repertoire, no. Just give them exactly what they're going to hear in the orchestra, exactly what they expect on the score.
Right.
With lighter music, yes, you can. You can take a score and completely rearrange it. Right. And I have had funny things said to me. For instance, like, I have sung this before, but it didn't sound like that. And I don't remember that in the accompaniment. I don't remember that in the bass. Or I go, well, don't you? Oh,
right. But I bet they prefer it, because I've sung with many different accompanists, and obviously we've worked together for many years. And you do something that other accompanists don't do. You have a way of presenting rhythm to a singer without the clump that you sometimes get with pianists. I've worked, in fact, I can quote an example. I think our last recital we did, I was rehearsing with somebody else who was clumping, and I actually couldn't get the rhythm. Even though they were driving it, I couldn't hear it. It was bizarre. Yes. And then I came to you and you played it and I got it without you having to do the doof clumping thing that they do with, with the metronome and all that.
I think I know what that is. I think a lot of the time, and many pianists do this, and I've certainly done it myself, is where you sort of impose a beat almost from the top of the keys, and you hear like a percussive clanking.
Right.
Really. That's what you're hearing.
Yeah.
You get it like in waltzes and polkas and all sorts of things where you hear the pianist actually doing this.
Right.
But for a singer, it's not very good, and actually in lots of contexts it's not good. We should already be on the key and feeling the rhythm. So I put the rhythm into my body, really,
right.
and I play from on the key, and I move inside the bar rather than imposing my beat on the top of the first, the first of every bar. So I think there are various types of time keeping. Like if you were teaching a youngster at a sort of grade 2 level how to clap time, you might do that imposing that sort of primitive beat keeping, I call it. But actually intrinsically adding rhythm and drive and movement into the bar is a different thing, it's a different technique of playing. And I probably learnt it because I studied with a Russian teacher, and I learnt it through it's a Russian technique that I use, but I've amalgamated it with other Western types of playing as well.
Right.
But I do know what you're saying when you seem to be imposed or beaten round the head by the rhythm rather than having it kind of delivered to you.
It makes it very difficult for a singer then to do legato lines because you are so aware of the the clunking rhythm following you around.
Yes. Well, this is the ageless question with the piano. Is it a percussion instrument or is it a lyrical stringed instrument?
Right.
Well, the fact is it is both. But when you are with a singer, you would prefer it to be on the lyrical side.
Right.
Even when you are, keeping a very strong beat, it shouldn't be banged, because I think that sort of desensitizes the performance.
Right. Yes, I agree with you, absolutely. Yeah. I know that, you've worked with all kinds of singers, but of course I'd like to concentrate on your work with professional operatic singers primarily, and also because of our work together, and because as a singer myself, I know the value of a very good accompanist. They're very, very hard to come by. So my question is this. Once the singer has presented you with a markup sheet with the music and the tempo they've chosen for their music, as an accompanist, how then do you start to work with a singer?
Well, firstly, usually the singer is leading the show. We have to accept that. So you see what concept the singer has got, what tempo they want, what texture they're after, what type of support they're after. And they can be after quite a bland support underneath them, or can be after very full orchestral support underneath them.
Right.
So we discuss all that. We would run through everything and just isolate areas in which perhaps we might have to put the ensemble together more than the rest of the piece. And that is how I would work it. But mainly, I think with singers, it's to do with texture and balance, and whether the singer is feeling that the pianist is breathing with them in the same points. I don't mean effectively gasping, but whether the pianist is actually feeling the phrase in the same way. And I think that is absolutely key to whether or not a singer will come back and use you again or not.
I see. You're talking about breathing as an accompanist, but I do actually find that myself, that good accompanists do seem to breathe with the singer and seems to have an internal kind of duet going on with the singer in order, I'm presuming, to better understand the phrasing and the ornaments used by the singer. Do you find yourself doing that too?
I do. I find I'm climbing into the singer's self and sort of trying to, and feeling it as it's being played. Of course, you've got to operate at some objective distance as well, so that there's bouncing between those two worlds, so there's sort of empathy and sympathy, as it were. But the other thing that singers have is that they tend to lead the piano because they have a bigger sound altogether. An operatic singer has got a bigger sound than a little piano. Even a large Steinway can't compete with a huge operatic voice. It really can't. And when there's a hitting of a top note and there's a soaring development of the top note, the singer becomes enveloped in their own top note. Their own head is sort of echoing with it. They can't hear the piano anymore.
Yes, that's
and
true.
At that point, you have to watch the singer like a hawk to climb down off their top note. They will not hear what's happening in the piano. On the recording, they'll hear it later on at a distance. But when they're enveloped in their own sound, they won't hear what's happening. And I think the pianist has to be aware of that and not criticise the singer for not hearing at certain points, because they won't. That's the nature of the voice.
It's interesting that you understand that, because of course people who do not also tend to be singers find that really hard to understand. They don't understand that that's what happens to your voice in your head when you're singing.
Absolutely.
That other sounds don't also come in, and that you can't sometimes hear the orchestra or the piano.
Yes. But I've worked, for instance, some years ago with a Russian bass, where his pianissimo was my forte.
Okay.
His forte was right off the scale.
Right.
And I remember him saying to me, we were playing some Mozart or Figaro or something, he said, "Can you not bring your piano texture up much louder so that I can hear it?"
Yes.
And I said, the piano is not big enough.
Yes.
And this is often the case. With an orchestra, he would have been fine, but I'd actually bottomed out on my sound. You see, a singer's carrying the same instrument around with them. They know what it does. A pianist is moving around and playing on different instruments, and some instruments can't cope. It's true, it isn't just the accompanist. So all you singers out there, please be aware of that.
Be
Sometimes
nice.
The instrument is not good enough.
Right, yeah. But I mean, even orchestras sometimes, you actually cannot hear them very well when you're in the throes
That's true.
of huge sounds.
That's true.
So.
And that's what I was going to say to you, actually. With singers, unlike with instrumentalists, you read the body language. So when you're up at the sort of the top of the range, dynamically and pitch-wise, you have to watch a singer like a hawk. And I think that's why you have to feel with the singer.
Yeah.
Because they can't hear you just at that point. And as they climb down off a phrase or leave it, then they're back in the world again. So it's a fascinating, really fascinating thing.
Because of course we're talking about acoustic voices. I suppose it's different.
Well, we are.
Yes,
we are.
I just want to ask you a question that I've thought about a long time, and I don't think anyone has ever asked an accompanist before. Do you feel resentful that despite your hard work, in the end, the singer seems to get all the glory? Is that a good question, do you think? Or is that so strange?
Well, to be honest, I think in the past I used to feel that. If I was accompanying anybody, I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. I was thinking, hang on, I'm equal to you, you know.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with it anymore, because I honestly believe that you choose to be an accompanist because you want to be one. Some of the time you will be in the foreground in the duo setting. Other times you'll be completely passively in the background, and you have to be prepared to be any or all of those things. But I do think that singers take the brunt of it. They're facing the audience. The audience can read them like a book. giving the